Hi guys, my name is Amy Soonhee and welcome back to another sketchbook tour video. This time I'll be going over my recent Inktober sketchbook that I just finished for October. You'll see every day for the month of October I drew a new ink drawing. This year my theme was fantasy worlds, so each day I had to draw not only just a character but more so a scene with an environment, which I need practice on for backgrounds, so it was a really good challenge for me. So why don't we jump right into it? So first off, we just have a little title page. I have two Instagrams, one being for illustration where I posted all my Inktober posts, and then one for graphic design. You can see the names of those Instagram accounts in case you want to follow those up above. So for the first day, you'll see that I drew a set of floating islands. Now everything you see here is done either in ink or watercolor, which is just the little red that you see on the character in the umbrella. I used the Daler Rowney ink from my last video for the green, and then the Winsor & Newton ink for the black, and I think they worked really well. The green was kind of a forest olive green, and it worked very well for all of the greenery and foliage. For day 2, I did kind of adventure scene where a wanderer comes across kind of a temple doorway. This is definitely kind of inspired from my love of video games like Legend of Zelda. Day 3 features multiple characters crossing a bridge. I kind of foresaw this as being travelers wandering the countryside as they make their way towards a bigger bustling city, but still set more in medieval times. Now this next one is more character focused. Now this is an alchemist in her workshop, but even though the character takes more precedence in the piece, I still wanted to focus on putting her in a scene so that I could practice backgrounds. For day 5, I wanted to take a more urban approach to my scenery and added in a little blue with the green inks that we were working with. So in here, all of the white that you see has been masked out by liquid mask and then painted over with a nice ink wash. And then the lines were added, and finally details and shading were added. Now this is probably one of my favorite pieces that I did for the month of October. This is kind of a underwater subway where a schoolgirl's just riding along, but she's surrounded by ocean life, just in a very urban setting, but it's still kind of fantasy. Here's another more character-based piece. This one's a mermaid, she's in a bathtub, but if you look closely, there's still elements of fantasy that you wouldn't see in the real world. The tiles underneath the bathtub are actually water. You'll see the ripples around the claw feet as well as more lily pads. I really enjoyed this piece too. It was actually inspired after the video game Stardew Valley, in which you can kind of just take time to sit on the docks and fish, but with a little bit of mystery intertwined in with this kind of leviathan creature lurking in the depths. This is the piece that I did for day 9. I uploaded a video on the time lapse of this. It's basically a princess bringing forward a sword that she's about to bestow upon someone, and she's in this very regal hall, but with dark entranceways and hallways leading from and to it. Now when I drew this piece, I had recently watched a lot of romantic comedy, anime, and animations, and so I wanted to draw something kind of heartwarming, a little cheesy, so I drew a formal ball at a castle where someone's asking another person to dance. And this next piece took some inspiration from Spirited Away. I haven't watched that movie in a long time, but I really remember liking just the scenery of the whole film and thinking that you could place these mystery characters in a very familiar setting like a street festival. This piece came from a suggestion from one of my Instagram followers who just wanted me to draw giant purple butterflies. I took that idea, added in kind of the floating islands that I explored earlier, and made this gateway into the starry night that's just surrounded by these giant purple butterflies. And here we go back to the romantic kind of cheesy dance scene where this is probably after the fellow asked the lady to dance, and we're in this kind of garden area with wisteria hanging down. But then I wanted to switch it up with a more action scene, so you gotta have some pirates. Here we have a pirate captain facing off against some undead enemies on her ship. This next piece is probably my fiance's favorite because he loves that frog on the log in the background, but this is a campfire around which travelers are kind of taking a break from their long journey at night. This piece took quite a while to ink in just because I hatched all of the cliffs in the background, but I think I entitled this Sea Guardians, where there's kind of a monk sitting on a giant crab watching over the cove as a kraken looms out in the depths. This page is a little more ambiguous. It's kind of a ramen-inspired world where you kind of have just a floating island of water with the different ramen components in it. Drew a little silly catfish in there, and then we have steam acting as the clouds wafting overhead. Now, I really like terrariums, so I just wanted to take different vessels that you would normally grow succulents and other plants in, and instead create whole little ecosystems encapsulated in different vases. Here we have a more post-apocalyptic feel with a robotic nomad kind of taking a break and reading in a chair next to its little rundown trailer, got a flat tire and everything. And that's followed by, again, a more, I guess, medieval kind of setting. I think I called this one Little Red, but instead of having a red hood, she has red hair. And for this one, it was really more an exploration on the treatment of the trees, where I laid an ink wash down everywhere except for the trees, and then added in the texture to make them look like birch. And as we start to introduce more orange hues, we go back to a more urban architectural scene where we have a wandering mage going through an alleyway where there's different storefronts available and different signs and rooftops viewable. This piece is a little play on words. There are cat cafes out in the world where you can go and eat at a cafe and spend time with the cats that live there. But in this case, it's a cat going to a cafe of its own. Here we have a greenhouse scene where there's a character tending to a mysterious plant. This next page is a little different because I decided to omit the black lines and outlines that I was using for all of my previous pages, and instead just kind of focusing on a light ink wash for the floating island as well as some watercolor for a more autumn time foliage. Next we have a couple of fairies, one being a butterfly and one being a dragonfly, and they're kind of perched on different mushrooms and wildlife. There are ferns in the background as well, and it's just a little composition that I wanted to make for the fall. This piece was a little challenging. I wanted to draw an airship, and I based the design mostly off of a whale. At this time, I was watching Firefly again, and so I had space cowboys on the mind, and I drew this, which is kind of a mix between, I guess, Firefly, Destiny, and a whole bunch of other sci-fi scenes. I wanted to make like a ranger out in space. And then I went back to more under the sea roots, and I wanted to draw another mermaid, but this time rather than be in a bathtub, actually be in the sea surrounded by corals and underwater cliffs. I really like this page too. This is supposed to be a mountain monk of sorts, but I really like just the central focus of this piece with the gold metallic sun in the background casting very dark shadows behind the character. And that's followed by another drawing that took quite a bit of time just to kind of plan out and then ink. And this is just a wandering knight facing off against the dragon of the area. And finally, day 31. This is a piece that hopefully I'll get to revisit in the future, but it's from a concept I had thought of a long time ago, where there might be a future in which urbanization has taken over to where we don't have any wildlife or trees visible except for in these small containments that we keep around, and even then they might not survive the test of time, but some of them will. So that's where that came from. So that's it, all 31 days. I've done Inktober for about 4 years now, and it continues to be challenging but rewarding. If you want more info on what Inktober is all about, I'll include a link in the description below. And if you want to know more about the supplies that I used in the sketchbook, feel free to check out my recent art haul video. And as always, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye bye!